This video outlines the basics of subject-verb agreement, agreement with person and number. When you've watched the video and answered the questions, you can check your answers at monoenglishschool.com. Link in the description below. If you find the video useful, or even enjoy it, please like and comment, and why not subscribe to our channel to see content as we post more. You could also look through more of our materials on our website, monoenglishschool.com. All subjects relate to a grammatical person. That means first, second, or third person. The person is determined by communicative role. This typically designates that the first person is the speaker or writer, the second person is the addressee, a person who is being spoken or written to, and the third person designates the role of other, the people who are mentioned but are not participating in the communicative event. The subject must also be considered in terms of number, meaning the number of people to which it refers. We have singular subjects in the first, second, and third person. These can be illustrated by the subjective case personal pronouns. In the first person, the singular personal pronoun is I. In the second person, it is you. And in the third person, we have he, she, and it, depending on the gender of the other, or if we are talking about a thing rather than a person. We also have plural subjects in the first, second, and third person. These again can be illustrated by the subjective case personal pronouns. In the first person, the plural personal pronoun is we. In the second person, it remains you. And in the third person, we have they, whether we are talking about a person or thing, and regardless of gender. We can also see that the roles have been updated to include plural speakers, addressees, and others, meaning more than one person can speak or be responsible for a text, be spoken to, and be spoken about. Now we can look at how the person and number of subjects affects the conjugation of verbs in the present tense. Conjugation simply means the way in which verbs change to match person, number, tense, voice, or mood. In this video, we will only discuss how verbs in the present tense change in respect of person and number. And in the present tense, all verbs, except the verb be, which we will look at later, have only two forms. The conjugations of most verbs can be demonstrated using the verb work. This table shows that in the first and second person, plural and singular, and in the third person plural, the verb does not change form. It is I work, you work, we work, you work, and they work. In the third person singular, however, we need to add an S to the end of the verb form. So we use he works, she works, and it works. The other thing to note is that when we use nouns rather than pronouns as our subjects, they are in the third person. So with third person singular, we can see Mohammed works, Paula works, and the computer works. In the third person plural, we have Mohammed and Paula work. Except for the verb have, which we will conjugate later, there are 3 rules to third person singular conjugation in the present tense that we need to remember. The first, as we have discussed, is to simply add an S. This works for the vast majority of verbs. The second is that if the verb ends in an O or a sibilant sound, which is a hissing sound, add an ES, as in, she goes and Paula watches. The third rule is to add IES to words that end in a consonant plus Y, as in, Mohammed replies. As mentioned earlier, be is one of the exceptions because instead of having only 2 verb forms in the present tense, be has 3. The first person singular of be has its own conjugation, which is am, as in, I am ready. The second person singular and the first, second, and third person plural share the same conjugation of are. So it's you are ready, we are ready, you are ready, and they are ready. And in the third person singular, we have the conjugation is. So, he is ready, she is ready, and it is ready. The final point to discuss in terms of person and number is the use of auxiliary verbs, which are often referred to as helping verbs. Auxiliary verbs help to express the aspect, mood, voice, or negation of a main verb. When we use auxiliary verbs, only the auxiliary verb must agree with the subject. We use the verb be for passive voice constructions and to indicate the progressive or continuous aspect. We use the verb have to indicate the perfect aspect. And we use do to form questions and indicate negation if no other auxiliary verb is used. For example, in the present progressive we say, I am dancing. The verb be is conjugated to agree with the first person singular subject. and will change when the subject changes. But the present participle dancing will remain the same regardless of the subject. We are dancing in the first person plural and they are dancing in the third person plural demonstrate this. In line with the rules discussed earlier, the other two auxiliaries, have and do, only change for the third person singular. He is not dancing is the final conjugation in the present progressive. With the third person singular of have, we use has, so we could say he has danced. Again, notice how the main verb, in this case dance, remains in the past participle form no matter the subject. And with do, we use does, so we could ask the question, does he dance? Or create a negative sentence, he does not dance. And again, the main verb does not change for any subject. So, a step-by-step process for subject-verb agreement with person and number would be to first find the subject, then identify its person and number, and finally to choose between the verb form that agrees with the subject. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before checking your answers on our website.